Good morning, everyone. This is the intro for part 2 of my story that I started last week, and I'd like to add a couple things before it starts. I'm tethering this week's and Sunday's online edition from the Greeley Vineyard Church, a series called Come and See, Week 3. And it's a deeper dive into the book of John, chapter 9, and the verses 1 through 41. It airs today, September 18th, at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. The teaching today is by Pastor Todd Billman. If you miss it, you'll be able to watch it at the Greeley Vineyard's website at greeleyvineyard.org, and you can find it there, and so you can see kind of what I'm talking about. I would like to highlight our faith journey from the application points in the series, and that it reads, "We should keep discovering God's character and heart through an ever-increasing knowledge of Him, no matter where you are at in your faith journey, or our faith journey." I'm headlining today as part of our journey that we need to continuously tell our stories of salvation. In quoting my better half, she said, "Your story could be told anytime, anywhere that you meet someone under the right circumstances by saying, 'Jesus changed my life,' and go from there." So let's get to it. If you're listening to this and you don't have a story, get one. It's very simple. Stay tuned to the end of this video, and there's information to help you to get your story or get started on your story. So thanks very much for that. Now I hope that you enjoy part 2 of my Facing God and Addiction series. It was actually filmed June 25th, 2020. Hope you enjoy it. Hello and high fives out there to everybody. My name is Jack Jennings and this is my story. It is definitely a story of love, mercy, and grace from my Holy Father, as well as forgiveness that I received from Him and my family. I stand before you today as absolute proof that God can change anyone that is in darkness, addiction, or self-pity and bring them out into the light. And I spent and I lost $250,000. An eviction notice was definitely imminent. The houses, the power lines, the trees, and that ryegrass had this dynamic thick frost, a very rare hoarfrost. It's called HOAR frost occurrence. The clouds were turbulent up above. I remember they're just like swirling all over, but it was calm down below. I was crying tears of sorrow. And I cried out to God. I said, "Please help me, Father. Please help me." The words came through my mind and said, "Give me your heart and come follow me." This is part 2 of my story. It's going to continue here a couple of weeks or more. That was a very profound moment that it just went by there a few seconds ago, and it was just extremely profound. And I was looked down on that day. I looked down on my feet, and I picked up my right foot, and I moved towards putting my foot down, and I said, "Yes, I will give you my heart, and I will come follow you." And wham! There was this loud sound that occurred. It's unbelievable. As the sun had heated up all that frost on that large field, the trees and the power lines, it just all came off at once. It just went like a kind of a crack throughout the neighborhood. And it just, oh my gosh, I just started crying loudly. Laugh crying, I called it. And I was laughing and crying with tears of joy at the same time. And I would start talking and over thanking God and Jesus just for me, and felt my old self at that point was just melting away, and this new self was just coming through me, and I was being reborn, and I could feel it. It was the most amazing thing in my life. And that whole field was just beautiful. Just all the flakes were all over the place. I could not stop babbling. And Maggie was barking, my doggie. I call her my doggie. Was barking and jumping around with me, and just all of a sudden there were like these 5 doves that just flew right by my head. And I felt the air just from one of them. I thought it was going to hit me in my ear, and then they just flew right up into the air and went just a slow turn through these large trees by this canal back there, and it just created this vortex, just like a jet or something. The turbulence, it just, all these floating frost pieces in the air, it just looked so beautiful, and they could just see that tube or that vortex going all the way through the trees by those birds. It's just amazing, and so I'm still crazy, jumping around, and I'm just crying, as I call it. And I've met others, late in, over the few years that they had the same experience. But, so I'm still just crazy, jumping around. And, my phone rings. I'm thinking, not now. The frost went boom. God talked to me. Doves flew by me. My dog jumping all around. I can't be bothered with this phone calls. And then, so I kept ringing, and I said, well, okay. I answered it, said, hello. And the voice on the other end says, is this Jack? You left a message for a metal lawnmower shed. And this totally caught me off guard. And I said, and she repeated it again. It was a lady. And she said, saying her name was Courtney. And then, so I kind of thought about it, the shed. I remember, oh, yes, that was me. And then I started talking to her. I said, I'm just standing here, and the frost went boom. God talked to me. Dove flew by my head. My dog was jumping all around. And she goes, I just wanted to know if you would come and get that shed, and it has to be removed today. And I said, oh boy. So I kind of came down to earth there, and I said, yes, where do you live? And can you text me your address? And she said, Windsor. And I kind of gulped, because right then I knew, my van was out of gas. The value of that small shed, I was a picker back then, and I knew what they're kind of worth. It was worth about $5 to $8. And I knew my van would take at least $12 in gas just to get back, to get there and get back. In my mind, all of a sudden, God's just saying, trust me, come follow me. And I said, okay. I told the ladies, I said, I'll be there within the hour. And she said, well, we may have a couple more things that you could take as well. Because I think she felt my gulp sentiment about that. But, and then, so I said, okay. So I said to Maggie, talked to my dog a lot, wish she was still here. So I said to Maggie, come on, we've got to go to get to Windsor somehow. So I have no money for gas, so I'm still overjoyed. I'm still crying tears, and I'm laughing all the way back to my apartment, laughing and just crying. It's the craziest thing you've ever imagined, hoping that Jesus would help. And and then this idea just popped in my head. Said, well, look around the seats on the floor of your van. And I did. And I found $2.27. And I think, well, that was enough to get me a half a gallon of gas, which was a little over $4 back then. And so I grabbed my gas can, thinking I would get gas and go to my brother-in-law's shop maybe. And I was kind of close to my apartment, see if he'd loan me $15 so I could just, get there. So Maggie and I start walking to the Sandy's gas station. The name's changed on that several times since then, but it's about half a mile away from where I lived. And there was the backside of all these apartments and stuff. There was a walk path, to that station that was shared a lot, from all the other tenants and people that lived around there. And there was a lot of snow then, as well as that frost everywhere. And the plows had pushed the piles of snow to a drainage ditch, right behind all these buildings, apartment buildings. So we start walking, and all of a sudden, Maggie, about halfway there, so Maggie starts digging on this patch of ice. She's just dig, and then she just look at me. And boy, when my dog looked at me with this eye look, that contact, you need to pay attention. So she's got something, or she found something, and then she looked back at that where she was, just dig, and then she looked at me again. And it's like, so I went over there, and and there was a chunk of trash or something, looked maybe like leather, just frozen pretty deep on the ice, and the dirt right there where all the snow plows had been. And I looked at it it looked a little rough, and I said, rough to me, So I said to Maggie, I said, we just don't have time for that. The frost went, bam, Jesus talked to me, the doves flew by me, and we're jumping around. And then Maggie just looked away from me and would dig, 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 dig. She would not leave. She would not leave. Well, I took out my old trusty Leatherman knife and started chiseling away on the piece there to try to get it there. And as I was doing that, while I was working, it started to take the shape of an old wallet maybe or something. And you could see where like animals had chewed it up pretty good. And, my eyes opened wide, and I thought I saw maybe money, and I thought, And then, so I got it out, I opened it up, and there it was, a $10 bill and a $20 bill right inside that wallet. Part of it was eaten off. Pretty good chunk of the money was gone, but the edge of it's, $30. And I started babbling in tears again. I'm just laughing and crying and laughing and crying. Thank you, God and Jesus. Now I could go to Windsor. So what do you think we've learned so far from watching this video? Number one, when you believe that Jesus is the way, you will feel your old self melt away and your new self being born. And then number two, once reborn, the Holy Father will always make sure you have enough. If you have questions about recycling your heart, come to the Greeley Vineyard Church or Google the Vineyard USA website and find a church near you. Contact them, and there will be someone there to help you.